I want you to picture this. It's 11 o'clock at night, you're in bed, doom scrolling, and you land on a YouTube video of a woman in her 60s, gray hair, pulled back, chalk all over her hands, and she is power cleaning a barbell like it owes her money. It hits you different, somewhere deep in your chest. And that was me. And that's where everything started to change. Today, I want to talk about why. Now, this episode is not about workouts. It's about a document, a collection of ideas really called the CrossFit Journal. And I think it might be the most important thing in the fitness industry that hardly anybody reads anymore, let alone talks about. So stick with me. Whether you've been doing CrossFit for decades or you've never even touched a barbell in your life and are just getting this journey started, this one is for you. I was about 36 when my body just kind of quit cooperating. I gained weight like someone had just flipped a switch on me. 10 pounds in a month, then 20, then a number that I kind of stopped looking at and pictures that I just stopped taking. My sleep was destroyed. My energy was gone, like disappeared. My moods were honestly a little scary to me. I went to my doctor and got the response that millions of women get all the time. Nothing, like a dismissal. It wasn't until much later that I realized that it was perimenopause, and I had to figure that one out for myself. Here's what nobody ever told me. When your estrogen starts to decline, your body's relationship with insulin changes. You become more insulin resistant. Your body starts preferring to store fat, especially visceral fat, right around your midsection. All of your old tricks stop working. The extra cardio that you used to do to help kind of lean out stops working. The calorie deficit that you used to use to drop those extra 5 pounds stops working. Nothing seems to work. And nobody really explains why. They just say, eat less, move more, and then kind of send you on your way. It's frustrating. Now let me talk about the diet carousel from hell. I did what we all do. I tried everything. The calorie counting apps, low carb, high carb, no carb, detox diet, juice fasts, replacement shakes, 30-day reset that lasts about 2 weeks. I tried running. I tried yoga. I tried more running. I tried a boot camp class where some 20-something-year-old would get in my face and yell at me to just push through. And at the end of the day, all I really wanted to do was push her through the door. Nothing worked. And the thing that's worse than the extra weight is the story that I started to tell myself about the extra weight. That something must be wrong with me. That my body was betraying me. That it was abandoning me and leaving me on the side of the road. That this was just what happens when you get older, and somehow I just had to learn to accept it and be okay with it. To settle, and worse yet, stop caring. The most dangerous thing about weight gain isn't the weight, it's the narrative. If you're listening to this and you know exactly what I'm talking about, that slow slide from frustrated into flat out resignation. I want you to hear me say this to you. That story is a lie. Your body isn't broken. It's not betraying you. It's just changing. It's responding to inputs that you don't quite understand yet. And the word yet is the most important thing that I have said so far. So anybody who knows me knows that I love a good rabbit hole. I mean, I will latch on to something and I start digging. Next thing you know, I'm head over heels down in the hole somewhere and my feet are sticking up in the air. This is about the YouTube rabbit hole that basically saved me, saved my life, and changed it forever. And this is not a glamorous origin story by any means. I was on my couch watching God knows what at the time, starting to feel frustrated and annoyed about my weight and all of those types of things. And I decided to grab my iPad and I started looking at YouTube, searching for anything to help me lose 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 20 pounds. And I ended up on yet another feeble attempt at finding one of those magic potion videos, you know, the ones that say lose 20 pounds in 30 days. Yeah, that was me. But somehow instead, the algorithm pulled up something different. The thumbnail was a video of the CrossFit Games. I clicked on it, not really knowing what it was that I was about to see. 3 gentlemen, all amputees, 2 with an arm amputation, 1 with a leg amputation, lifting barbells. And I just kind of took my breath away. I mean, I was genuinely speechless. And those that know me know that that rarely happens. But after that, when I was done watching it, I decided to click on another video. And this time it was some older women. My guess was early 60s, maybe. They were doing pull-ups and lifting heavy barbells. And I'm sitting there going, this is insane. And in that moment, I started to lose every excuse that I had previously created for myself. These women looked like they could run through a wall, and they were unapologetic and extremely proud about it. That triggered this big rabbit hole. I mean, hours, anything and everything that I could find. And it didn't start by watching the elite younger athletes doing all of the insanely difficult things that they do. It started with these adaptive and master's levels athletes doing things that most people on the planet would say should be impossible, but they were proving that it was possible. And I lost every excuse that I ever had. These were people that you could tell had gone through something, had gone through life, whether they were amputated or had gone through menopause or gone through divorce or gone through chemo, regardless of whatever it was that they had gone through, they made a decision that they were done being defined by the circumstance and what they lost. I didn't really know exactly what CrossFit was about. I mean, I had heard about it, in the vague terms, and they do this really fast and they lift barbells and stuff like that. But at the core of it, I didn't know at all. I didn't know what a WOD was. I didn't know the difference between a clean or a snatch. I just knew that I wanted a piece of whatever it was that these people were showing, that they were putting out there. And I wanted some of that heart back for myself. I walked into a CrossFit gym a couple days later, 57 extra pounds, no athletic background. I was a dancer, what feels like a lifetime ago, but I was never an athlete. I had no idea what I was doing. It was really sad. But I made a decision that I was going to show up and I was going to do whatever I could do, even though I was one of the oldest people in the room and I was definitely one of the heaviest. So I want to have a little mindset moment here for a second and talk about letting go of excuses. This is the first real piece of mindset stuff that I'm going to give you today. And it's like this. Letting go of excuses is not the same thing as pretending that the obstacles aren't real. The hormone fluctuations are real. The excess weight, real. Being exhausted, real. Brain fog, real. The being afraid to walk in the door of a gym, real. The exhaustion, real. The depression, also real. And I didn't pretend those things away. I just decided that they weren't going to be the reason why I wasn't going to try. There's a big difference between I can't because fill in the blank and this is hard and I'm going to try anyway. The first one is like hitting a wall. You've automatically hit the emergency brake. The second one is a door, and walking through that door is terrifying, especially when you're the heaviest or the oldest person in the room, especially when you can't do a push-up or you can barely make it up the stairs without getting out of breath, especially when every fitness space that you have ever been in has made you feel like you don't belong there. Let me tell you something. You do not need to be fit to start CrossFit. You start CrossFit to get fit. If you're sitting in your car right now or on your couch or at your desk or on a walk and you're thinking, that's great for her, but I'm too heavy. I'm too out of shape. People are going to stare at me. I really need you to hear this. I was you. I was exactly you. And I can guarantee that nobody stared. I got handed a PVC pipe and was taught how to squat, how to clean, how to snatch, how to burpee. They didn't care about what I looked like. They cared about the effort that I was putting forward. That was what was important. And it started to shift the way that I looked at all of it because the effort was what was getting celebrated, not the end result. So I had that part, right? Going to the gym, I'm working out, everything is good. I'm meeting some cool people. I'm oddly having fun doing some really hard things. Fantastic, right? The weight just started coming off. Wrong. It didn't. And this is why. Because I think this is a piece where a lot of people living this experience kind of get it wrong. I started CrossFit and I was showing up every day. I scaled everything. I was one of the slowest people in the room. I couldn't lift anything really heavy, but I started to fall in love with the process of it. And for a little while, that was enough to start to see some changes, especially mentally, but even physically, I was seeing some changes. But here's the thing. I was still eating the way that I used to eat, the way that I had always done it, which is to say, not always so great and no real framework. Protein bar for lunch, skip breakfast, some sort of takeout for dinner, a vague sense of I should be eating clean, but not really knowing what that looked like. I had the mindset piece starting to kind of come together. The training piece was slowly coming together, but I was building a house from the roof down instead of the foundation up. So I'm going to give you a little science here because it's the part that really put the pieces together for me. When I started learning about nutrition through the CrossFit community, I started to understand what was actually happening inside of my body. And it was like someone turned the lights on in a room that I'd just been sitting around in, fumbling, bumping into things for years. Because it's not a willpower problem. It's an endocrine shift. Every woman over 35 needs to tattoo that on the inside of her flippin' eyelids. You're not lazy and you're not under-disciplined. Your hormones have changed the rules on you and nobody handed you the new rule book. So here's where the CrossFit prescription really started to work. And this is where the CrossFit Journal enters the picture in a pretty real way. Because the deeper that I got into the CrossFit community, the more I encountered this deceptively simple nutritional framework. Eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. That's it. That's the prescription. And I know what you're thinking. That's way too simple. I thought the same thing. But here's what I discovered. It's not a diet. It's a lifestyle. It's a framework. And I started finally understanding what people meant when they said things like that. It's a set of principles that when you actually apply them consistently, addresses almost every metabolic issue that perimenopausal and menopausal women face. Protein preserves lean muscle mass, which is your metabolic engine. And to be honest, once you hit 35, you're fighting to keep every ounce of that you can. Vegetables are going to provide your fiber, your micronutrients, and some added volume. Your healthy fats help to support hormone regulation, hormone function, and production. Your hormones are already struggling, so don't make it any harder than it needs to be. Reducing sugar and starch addresses the insulin resistance issue that we start to experience once we hit a certain age. And it also drives fat storage that your body can't seem to stop. When I started eating this way, like real food, enough protein, plenty of veggies, 0 to no sugar, combined with CrossFit training, I started to see results, and I definitely started to feel better. It wasn't fast. It was not overnight, but it did start to happen, and I just kind of had to hold the faith that it would. The first things I noticed was I had significantly less brain fog. I energetically felt better because I was eating real food again and actually providing my body with the food that it needed, the fuel that it needed. Workouts started to feel better. Everything started to change. In the end, I didn't need another diet. I needed to understand biology, my own biology. Now, what is this thing called the CrossFit pyramid? Let's get right into the meat and potatoes on this one. If you've been in CrossFit for any amount of time, you've probably heard at least one person mention the pyramid. If you haven't, then I'm going to introduce it to you here because it's probably the single most important idea in the CrossFit methodology and probably one of the most valuable and important ideas in fitness, period. The CrossFit theoretical hierarchy of development is a pyramid with 5 levels. From the bottom up, it goes nutrition, metabolic conditioning, gymnastics, weightlifting, and sport. The order of it is not arbitrary. It's an argument. It's a hard line in the sand. It's a claim about causality. It basically is telling you build fitness from the bottom up, and each layer depends on the one below it. The base of the pyramid, the widest part, the foundation, its structure, is nutrition. Not the workout, not the barbell, not the six-pack, but nutrition. And this is the part that I think that CrossFit community has kind of forgotten about. The broader fitness industry never understood it really in the first place. And why the order matters, especially if you're over 35, your body is going through some of the biggest metabolic shifts it could possibly experience since puberty. Your hormones are reorganizing and your body composition is shifting. And in the middle of all of that, the fitness industry is telling you to do more HIIT, eat fewer calories, try intermittent fasting. And none of those things in a silo are necessarily a bad thing, but it's not taking into account the entire picture. The pyramid says start with nutrition. Get that right first. Then build your metabolic conditioning, your engine, your aerobic base, your ability to sustain work over time. Then you add gymnastics, your body weight movements, your coordination, your flexibility. Then weightlifting. Get stronger, bring on more muscle, etc. Then sport. Each layer supports the next. Skip the base and the whole thing becomes unstable. Which leads me to the inverted pyramid problem. In my practice as a functional nutrition coach, I see this or hear this at least once a week. You can deadlift 1.5 times your body weight, but haven't had a normal fasting blood glucose level in 3 years. Athletes who are training 5 days a week, but live on protein bars and cold brew. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my coffee too, but that is not fuel for your body. People who are doing the top 5 layers of the pyramid, but completely ignoring the base. We've inverted it. It's upside down. We've put the sexy stuff or whatever on top and the boring stuff at the bottom, and then wonder why people plateau or burn out or get injured or develop disordered relationships with food. The pyramid isn't sexy. Nutrition isn't exciting, but it is structural and it's a foundation, and you can't out-train a broken one. So here's another mindset moment. Boring is powerful. Learn to love the boring stuff. Our culture has become addicted to dramatic transformations, the before and after photos, the PR bell ringing, the 30-day challenge reveal, and all of that is fine. But you know what actually changed my body? Eating real food at every meal, going to bed before 10 o'clock, drinking more water, cooking my own food most of the nights a week instead of once or twice. That's the revolution. Boring, consistent, unglamorous inputs produce extraordinary lasting outputs. That's the pyramid in a sentence. And if you can accept that, if you can let go of the need for it to be exciting and just let it be effective, you'll become unstoppable. So let's talk about the CrossFit Journal itself, because if you're new to CrossFit, you may not even know it exists. Lord knows I didn't until I got my level 1. If you've been around a while, you've probably haven't read it, or if you have, it's probably been a while. And that's part of the problem. The CrossFit Journal is where the methodology was built. Greg Glassman's foundational articles like What is Fitness, Foundations, the Theoretical Hierarchy of Development weren't blog posts. They were position papers. They defined terms, picked fights with the fitness industry and Big Sugar, and backed every provocation with logic and data. What is Fitness proposes 10 physical skills, 3 metabolic pathways, and a measurable, testable standard for human performance. Find me another fitness system out there on the planet that does that. Which brings me into methodology versus programming. And here's the distinction that I think modern CrossFit has almost completely lost, that methodology is not the same as programming. Programming is what goes on the whiteboard. The methodology is the why that goes into what is on the whiteboard. Programming is sets, reps, time domains, combinations, while the methodology is the underlying logic that stays constantly varied functional movements executed at high intensity, and how that will produce a broad range of fitness, the broadest fitness, and that this approach is supported by specific hierarchy priorities. Without the methodology, CrossFit is just another workout format. No different than a boot camp or a circuit or whatever happens to be trending at a given moment. The methodology is what makes it different. The methodology is what makes it work. And the journal is where that methodology lives. So why do coaches and even everyday athletes need to go back and read it? In 2026, you can walk into dozens of CrossFit affiliates and find coaches who have never read the CrossFit Journal, those foundational articles. Think about that. That's like hiring a constitutional lawyer that never read the Constitution. These are the documents that explain why we do what we do. And if your coach can't explain basic nutrition and how it's the base of the pyramid and why, then they're teaching you movements without teaching you the methods. Compare that to what most athletes consume today. Instagram carousels with percentage charts, or whatever their PR happens to be, and YouTube breaks down competition workouts and configurations of programming, and we've got AI generated hybrid programs that borrow CrossFit's terminology while ignoring its logic and foundation. We've diluted the methodology into aesthetics, and the journal is the antidote to that. Now I want to take a second and talk to the person who's scared to walk into a CrossFit gym, scared to take on the pyramid and really dig in and learn. I know what it feels like to not belong. And I wanted to talk to you right now on purpose. You might be driving, you might be doing the dishes, you might be sitting in a parking lot scrolling on your phone, and you're thinking, this all sounds great, but Vicky, you don't understand. I'm too heavy, I'm too old, I'm too far gone, I'm not worth it. People are just gonna look at me. I don't know what any of those words mean. I can't do a push-up. I can't run a block. I don't need a gym. You're wrong. And I've been there. I hear you. And I want to tell you that I was 57 point something pounds overweight with no athletic background. I couldn't do a push-up. The first time I tried to run 200 meters, I thought I was going to die. My coach still said, good job. And not sarcastically, but genuinely, because I showed up. I made the choice to show up and do something hard, to challenge myself, to make myself better. And showing up is the hardest part, especially in CrossFit. Did you know that research on exercise adherence consistently shows that social support and a sense of belonging are the strongest predictors of long-term participation? More than program design, more than just the results, more than motivation. A 2019 study in the International Journal for Environmental Research and Public Health found that CrossFit participants reported significantly higher levels of community, of belonging, compared to traditional gym goers that are just kind of showing up and doing whatever on some mechanical machine over there. And that correlated to higher retention, higher adherence, higher consistency. Man, did those adaptive athletes really teach me something. They taught me that before I ever even stepped foot in a gym, that fitness was not about what my body looked like. It was about what my body could do. And everyone, every single body can do something. You can choose to sit in the chair and stand back up. Congratulations. You just did a half squat. Can you pick up a grocery bag off the ground? That's a deadlift. Can you put a suitcase up in an overhead bin? That's a press. CrossFit doesn't ask you to be fit to walk in the door. It meets you where you are, and the movements scale, the weight scale, the intensity scales. The grandma doing air squats to a box and the games athlete doing heavy thrusters are doing the same workout, scaled for them and where they are. The same methodology applies to both. That's the point. So the last little mindset moment that I want to talk about is identity before outcome. This is probably the biggest one. Stop trying to get results before you change your identity. Most people say, I'll go to the gym when I lose some weight, or I'll start eating better when I feel more motivated. That's backwards, and a little insane. You don't wait until you feel like an athlete to start training. You start training to become an athlete. The action comes first. The identity follows later. When I first walked into a CrossFit gym, I was not a CrossFitter. I was a woman in her almost 50s who didn't know what the hell she was doing. But I showed up, and I showed up again the next day, and again the day after that. And 3 years later, here I still am. I stopped saying I'm trying to CrossFit and just started saying I do CrossFit. That tiny little linguistic shift from trying to doing started to change everything in my own head. You don't get motivated when you start. You start to stay motivated. Nutrition is the first step that you can take today, and it's the base of the pyramid. And there's a beautiful thing about that pyramid. You don't even have to go to the gym to start. The base is nutrition. You can start that right now, the next meal that you choose to eat. You don't need a fancy meal plan. You don't need a fancy macro calculator right now. Just start with the next meal. Eat real food, high in protein, low starch, no sugar, fruits and vegetables, and maybe some nuts and seeds. That's it. It's that simple. And start stacking the wins. Let the pyramid do what it's designed to do. And why do I bring that up? Most of my clients, when I start working with them, they want to see the whole picture. They've got whatever their goal is, and they want all of the things, and they want to make sure that they've cleared out all of the cabinets and the pantry and, do all of the grocery shopping and get everything ready and do all of the food prep and be ready from the get-go, right? From the very first meal. And the attitude, the sentiment is fantastic. But here's the reality, is that ends up leading to, well, I need a couple days to get that going or to set that up or to feel ready for it. I call BS. There's no such thing. Just do it. The next meal, do it. And then the one after that, do it then too. But you can only do one step at a time. Even behavioral research shows that small identity reinforcing habits and actions, what BJ Fogg calls tiny habits, are more effective at driving long-term habits, long-term behavior changes. And that's what we're all looking for, right? Starting with one nutritionally complete meal a day has a higher adherence rate for you than overhauling your entire nutrition program in one foul swoop. It just does. Because at the end of the day, everything is one decision at a time, whether it's how you're eating or even going to the gym. Here's the truth of it. The pyramid hasn't changed. So does that mean that it's irrelevant? Here's my semi-short answer. I would argue that the CrossFit pyramid is more relevant now than ever because most people have stopped paying attention to it. The principles haven't aged at all. The pyramid has not been disproven. The foundational articles on nutrition, metabolic conditioning, and the definition of fitness are still sharper and more intellectually honest than 90% of what is out there in the fitness industry today. What has changed is the culture around all of those thoughts. We've built a community that has started to celebrate the output of the methodology, the impressive lifts, the competitive performances, the dramatic transformations, meanwhile neglecting the inputs that made those outputs possible. We have bastardized and confused the leaderboard with the laboratory. So here's my little takeaway. Go back and read the foundational articles, not as homework, but as an obligation to yourself. If you're an athlete, read them because they'll change how you understand your own training. If you're someone who hasn't set foot in a CrossFit gym yet, start with the ideas and those concepts with your next meal and start just showing up for you. The pyramid hasn't changed. The question is, do you have the discipline to build from the bottom up? Thanks to CrossFit, I lost 57 pounds, not just because of the workouts, but because I found the methodology and it taught me the truth about my body, about how to fuel it, how to train it, how to be healthier. I just needed the right foundation to build it. Thank you for being here. And I hope that it provided a little bit of insight and gave you something that you could walk away with. Until the next time, be limitless.